You're going to start mixing the epoxy to pour in the areas of the table. I'm using Art Resin. I saw an online test where this stuff is pretty good as far as not yellowing. And what I figured is I'm going to be mixing 24 ounces to cover a 1/4 inch deep of 45 square inches. I'm just doing the two little corners right now on the table. So I got my 12 ounces on each of these marked, and then I'm going to dump it and mix it in here. There we go. That's part A of resin, and I'm going to do part B, the hardener. And I had ordered a 5-gallon vacuum chamber, but they haven't even shipped it yet. I gotta get going, and hopefully I'm not going to have an issue with air bubbles. I know you can pop them with a flame. I've never done that before, but here we go. So basically they told me I can pour a 1/4 inch depth layer every 3 hours. So here we go. Dump part A and part B in here. Now I got a 45-minute work time, so I'm not going to be in a super big rush. I want to make sure I get these mixed really well. There's a zillion air bubbles in there already. But pouring it at a 1/4 inch deep, hopefully I won't have a problem with popping air bubbles with a flame, getting them to rise to the surface. The bottom of my base is copper, so I shouldn't have air coming out of copper like you do with wood. Now I've got a phenolic mixing stick, and I'm going to mix this an extra long time here. Art Resin is got no VOCs, volatile organic compound. There's no, it's kind of turning a milky white. That's what it looks like. Man, there are a lot of air bubbles in here. I'm almost wondering if I should wait and get that vacuum chamber and chalk this up to experience. I mean, this, I don't know if you can see inside there. That is a lot of air bubbles right there. Inside there you can see. I'm just hoping they pop out. Once I pour this stuff, I'm kind of committed. Okay, I poured both corners, fairly uneventful. Looks like it's about a 1/4 inch deep. I got it taped pretty good, so I haven't seen any leaks. It's pretty tight fit. Tons and tons of bubbles. I don't know. Oh wow! Look at them disappear. Unbelievable. I don't know if you're seeing that. Unbelievable. Still got some bubbles right in there. And I'm going to let that sit for a second. Go to the other side. I got some more bubbles coming up. And this is a 1/4 inch thick. Okay, I'll let that sit for a bit, cover it up, come back in 5 minutes and look to see if anything else has happened. Okay, just did the 3rd pour. So you can get kind of a reflection shot here. Try not to drop the damn camera. I gotta wait till 3 o'clock in the morning to do my next 1/4 inch pour. So far, the hottest temperature I've seen with this is it's like 96, and underneath the plate, and it's got to be 80 some degrees in here. Okay, this should be the last pour for this, this small end here. I'm gonna have to probably do it in a couple little pours here to make sure. Don't put too much in here. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for a little bit. And this is the first go around the pop bubbles here. Doesn't look like anything's in the surface. I found one tiny little piece of white cloth. I don't know where it came from, but wear clean clothes, like fresh out of the dryer. Make sure you cover your head with something. You see the bubbles. I mean, it's like Alka-Seltzer. And I've got a vacuum chamber coming to degas this stuff. I mean, if you look, it almost looks like there's, I think it's more of the copper that makes it look like that. But it almost looks like there's micro bubbles or something in there. So here we go. I'm gonna pour this, and I'm hoping I got enough here. And what's really important that you got this level. And you can see the bubbles. So I want to get it really, really close. Remember the bubbles? I always keep the torch moving. I'm doing a little circular motion, trying to not start the wood on fire here. I'm pouring it pretty deep. You can see where the flames kind of, the heat from the flame is, and it actually pushes in on the material. I want to be careful kind of along the edge. You know, let that sit a second. I'm probably doing this more than what most people would do it, but I'm a 1/4 inch deep. The other thing I'm wondering is that with the vacuum chamber, if I'm going to get rid of those like tiny little micro bubbles that, if you look just right, you can see them. No big bubbles. And there you have it. Okay, got a problem with micro bubbles forming pretty much on every layer. Pouring this art resin at a 1/4 inch thick and using a torch, which you saw in my earlier in this video. And I'm going to use a flashlight, and you could see the tiny little micro, what I call micro bubbles, that are, it's just evenly dispersed through the whole mix. The torch would take all the normal big bubbles out immediately, but you know, these bubbles are everywhere. So I've got a dilemma. Either I live with it and I do the same process while I pour that whole center section. I got the same issue over here on this side. And if the light hits it, you know, just right and you're looking down, it looks great. But when you look at it like this, well, that's hard to catch. There, you can see all the bubbles. It's just a solid coating, not a coating, but they're diffused everywhere evenly. You know, I got copper sides and a copper bottom, so it's not outgassing of the wood. So either I got a vacuum chamber coming in a couple days. I should have done a test sample. I believe basically pouring art resin a 1/4 inch deep and using you know, a torch. I did it twice on each layer. It doesn't work. You're going to get those bubbles because I can't see anything that I did wrong. So I'm going to get a vacuum chamber in a couple days. I'm going to degas the mixed resin, and I'm going to pour that whole center section. I'm going to pour the layers a little bit thinner, and if that turns out just as screwed up, then the whole thing's going to look like that with the bubbles. If that turns out crystal clear, then then in my opinion, you cannot pour art resin a 1/4 inch thick unless you put it in a vacuum chamber and you degas it, which I'm going to find out. And I'm going to do it thinner. If that works, then I'm going to end up having to grind out all this epoxy. And I don't know if I'm going to end up destroying this copper bar. The bottom plate I can replace. So now I'm thinking about ways to remove this, to redo it, but it's going to be a mess. So that's it for now. We'll have to see what happens when I pour that center section.